What if the junk in your drawer could become magic in your garden? Today, we're not just recycling, we're reimagining. I'll show you how to build a whimsical fairy garden using only what you already have. No fancy tools, no expensive supplies, just your creativity and a bit of wonder. Welcome to Arkan Aesthetic Studio, where beauty is built from what's overlooked. This video is fully time-stamped. Feel free to skip ahead or follow along. Got a question? Drop it in the comments. And if this inspires you, go create. Make it yours. Use what you have, where you are. And one more thing. You might just see another DIY channel, but this is more than content. It's a piece of my life. Every like, every share, every subscribe, it matters. It keeps a small dream breathing, a real one. Thank you for seeing me. One, collecting recycled materials. Not everything beautiful starts in the perfect place. Sometimes it begins in a kitchen drawer, a dusty shelf, or a forgotten box. Laid out in quiet morning light is a world of possibility. Cans once crushed are now standing tall, waiting to become towers or lanterns. Corks once popped in celebration now rest gently in line, ready to become walls or seats. Twigs, stones, old containers, each with a past, each holding the shape of something new. You don't need a craft store to start. You need stillness and a willingness to look again. This isn't about crafting fast. It's about choosing slowly. It's about allowing small things to matter again. In a quiet garage, a child sits beside her father. No instructions, no manuals. Just a box filled with discarded pieces of other stories. Tiny toys without their sets. Old hooks, keychains, wire twisted by time. There's no plan, just discovery. One piece makes her laugh, another makes him pause. And together, they wonder out loud, what if this was a fairy swing? Here, magic doesn't come from the object itself. It comes from the pause. From the shared imagination that rises between two hands reaching into the same box. The fairy garden hasn't even begun, but it's already alive in the space between curiosity and memory. And then there's the earth beneath your knees. Sunlight spills across a spread of scattered plastic. Broken lids, cracked spoons, faded toys, shattered jars. Most people would walk past this mess without a second thought. But you stay, you kneel, you sift and pick and sort, not for what it is, but for what it could be. A bottle cap becomes a stepping stone. A broken dish becomes a fairy door. A jar becomes a glowing window once filled with moss and light. You begin to see not with your eyes, but with imagination. And that, truly, is where all fairy gardens begin. So take your time. Sort slowly. Let the light guide you. Because there is wonder waiting in every scrap, in every overlooked thing, and in the quiet belief that what was once discarded can become part of something enchanted. Let that be your story. Let that be your garden. Two, building miniature fairy houses from recycled materials. A bench in the garden becomes a gallery, not of polished architecture or store-bought decor, but of dreams made by hand. Cardboard, caps, fabric scraps, lids from jars, circles of felt, bits of lace. Each piece once cast aside, now part of something whimsical. Each house is different. Some shy, some bold, some quirky. They don't follow a blueprint. They follow the heart. This is the beauty of recycled fairy homes. They don't have to match. They just have to mean something to the maker. Sit with your materials. Don't rush. That cereal box could become a roof. That soda can might be a tower. A button can be a window into another world. Not everything has to make sense. Some things just have to feel right. Tucked beneath the leaves, something glimmers. A glass jar, turned gently on its side, becomes a home, a doorway lined with acorn caps, round windows peeking from the shadows, a roof made of real leaves, carefully layered, as if the tree itself leaned down to help. There is softness in this design, a kind of quiet respect for the garden. It doesn't shout, "Look at me." It whispers, "I belong here." This is the kind of fairy house that disappears when you're not looking. That becomes part of the earth. That invites real imagination to sit down and stay a while. Use what you find. Let nature guide the form. And when in doubt, add something living. Further in, among the moss and flowers, sits a little home made of tin. The walls curve with the ripple of the can. The roof is bark, layered like old forest shingles. Tiny twigs form window frames, and the doorway is arched with smooth stones, laid one by one. It's simple, but it feels alive. There's care in the way it stands, like someone believed in it enough to finish every little corner. That's what matters most. Not the materials, not the skill, but the belief that this small thing is worth your time. So whether your house is made of cardboard or glass, tin or twigs, paper or pine cone, make it your own. No two fairy homes need to look alike. What they need is intention, and a little bit of your story tucked inside. Three, creating paths and bridges from recycled materials. The earth is quiet here, freshly turned, patiently waiting. With just a handful of broken shells and bits of tile, a simple path begins to wind its way through the soil. Each piece tells a story, chosen not for its perfection, but for its texture, shape, and the way it catches the light. The path glows faintly under the soft flicker of tiny jar candles, repurposed from bottle caps and glass scraps. It doesn't lead anywhere grand, just into a story. A garden not for walking feet, but for wonder. Farther along, a bridge arches gently over a river of marbles. These were once forgotten in drawers and game boxes, but here, lined in neat rows of glistening blue, they shimmer like a stream under morning sun. The bridge itself, humble, clever, made from popsicle sticks and twine, is a gentle reminder that imagination doesn't ask for more than what we already have. Then, as you wander past moss and scattered flowers, you might find yourself stepping over a path made entirely from buttons. Some still hold threads from old clothes, some are cracked, some are pearly. Each one, laid down carefully in a winding trail, feels like a memory made solid, soft, colorful, unpredictable. In this garden, there are no straight lines, no perfect corners, just tiny, recycled pieces of life turned into a place where magic belongs. Every broken shell, every chipped tile, every shiny orb and stitched button has been given a new purpose, a new home, and that's the quiet power of it all. Not just building something small, but remembering that beauty lives even in the things we almost threw away. Four, decorating with recycled fairy garden details. In the quiet corners of a garden, where shadows stretch gently over soft soil, there are details waiting to be noticed, tiny pieces of discarded life reborn into beauty. Along a wooden fence, bottle caps become jeweled medallions. Old earrings, forgotten in drawers, now dangle proudly beside scraps of ribbon and lace. These are not decorations, they are declarations. Proof that even the smallest, most overlooked things can shine when given a second chance. Under the morning sun, each piece sparkles like it belongs to a world where fairies really do dance on fences. Nearby, a soft glow emanates from a delicate lantern. It sways gently, suspended from a tripod of gathered twigs. The body of the lantern, a humble soda can, transformed. Inside it, a simple tea light flickers, casting shadows against a handcrafted fairy door made of corks and twine. It's not perfect, but that's its magic. It feels real, familiar, like it could have been made by tiny hands in the night. And then, a cheerful sign catches the eye. Fairy Hollow, Mossy Trail. The letters are hand-painted onto popsicle sticks, placed between a patch of plastic flowers and a trail lined with buttons. There's something joyful about it, like a welcome sign not just to a garden, but to a different way of seeing the world. In this space, imagination isn't expensive. Creativity doesn't come from a store. It grows from the things we almost threw away. The button that fell off an old coat, the cap from a forgotten soda, the ribbon you saved without knowing why. And maybe that's the quiet lesson of fairy gardens. That wonder lives not in what we buy, but in what we choose to see and what we choose to keep. Five, miniature accessories, furniture, swings, and fairy toys. There's something quietly enchanting about tiny furniture made from forgotten odds and ends, something that whispers stories of a world we rarely notice, but always long to believe in. Imagine a bottle cap, once tossed aside, now gently swinging from two twigs like a playground ride for fairies. The moss beneath it softens each imagined footstep. Next to it, wine corks are transformed into seats and tables, shaded beneath a leaf umbrella delicately propped up by a stick and a pebble. It's more than whimsy, it's a celebration of simplicity. Elsewhere, on a wooden tray bathed in morning light, we see a silver spoon reborn as a rocking chair, its elegant curves welcoming to any small visitor. Matchboxes become drawers stacked neatly with care, and thimbles line up like loyal stools awaiting tea-time conversation. There's a sense of charm in their imperfection, a homemade honesty that feels deeply human. And then, under a blooming sprig of flowers in a humble garden pot, a plastic toy ring becomes a table centerpiece. Bottle caps hold pebbles arranged like pastries on mismatched plates. The napkin beneath them, a scrap of fabric, mimics lace. It's a fairy picnic assembled not from a store, but from memory, from curiosity, and a few forgotten drawers. What makes these miniature scenes magical isn't their precision, it's their purpose. They were created with care. They were born from the intention to reuse, to reimagine, to reconnect. They invite us to look again at what we've thrown away and see not trash, but treasure. So if you're inspired to begin, start small. A cork, a spoon, an old keychain. Each one holds the potential to tell a story. And in your hands, they just might become something a little magical. Six, natural elements. Plants, moss, and stones. In the quiet rhythm of the earth, some of the most magical stories begin with the simplest details. A patch of moss, a scattering of smooth stones, and the soft green blush of clover under a spring sun. And if you lean in just close enough, you might hear it too, the faint whisper of a fairy's footstep on a pebble path. Let us begin with something beautifully grounded, nature itself. The first scene captures a fairy bench woven entirely from twigs, gently wrapped in living moss. This isn't just furniture, it's a moment frozen in time. The moss clings like memory, soft and wild, making every inch of the bench feel aged and full of stories. Placed beside a petite fountain and clover blooms, this corner invites you to imagine fairies pausing here after a long flutter through the garden. A little further into this magical realm, a humble hill becomes home. Cloaked in moss and surrounded by wildflowers, a small door peeks from beneath its leafy veil. The path leading to it is made of pebbles collected not for their perfection, but for their personality, speckled, round, and smooth, each one telling of streams and seasons past. You don't need grand materials for a fairy house. You only need what nature quietly offers: pebbles, twigs, leaves, and love. And then, beneath the embrace of a wide old tree, where sunlight filters through like golden silk, there's a fairy standing watch. Her home may be tiny, but it sits in harmony with the succulents and stones around it. Proof that the best kind of design doesn't compete with nature but listens to it. Here's a tip for your own creation. Next time you walk through your garden or even down the sidewalk, take a closer look. That piece of bark? It might be the roof of a fairy stable. That moss by the tree? A lush fairy carpet. By integrating real elements into your miniature world, you allow the real world to participate in the magic. You don't need to buy anything. You need to notice, to feel, to reimagine. In this way, crafting a fairy garden becomes more than just a DIY project. It becomes a quiet meditation, a chance to return to the earth, to the stories we knew as children, and to the joy of creating something meaningful with our own hands. The fairies, after all, are just waiting for a place to land. Seven, final touches and garden care. Even the tiniest worlds deserve care, especially the magical ones. As the light begins to soften and the world quiets down, you'll find the fairies still dancing, not in grandeur, but in quiet moments of attention. A child kneels beside a patch of moss, pressing a small handmade sign into the soil. Fairy, it reads, a gentle declaration that this space is no longer ordinary. Solar lights begin to hum with a warm glow, lighting the path into their tiny world. This is the magic of tending. Fairy gardens aren't just built. They are nurtured, cared for like any living story, one chapter at a time. In one corner, a simple watering can stand next to a recycled cup filled with fresh soil. A banner made of scrap paper stretches between two twigs, bearing words that say, "Appreciate your work." And indeed, every small update, a sprinkle of pebbles, a tucked-in plant, is an act of storytelling, of belief. And when the morning sun returns, and a fine mist is sprayed gently over soft moss and miniature leaves, the garden awakens once more. Look closer. See how the water beads on the petals? How the green seems greener in the light? That's not just water. That's care made visible. That's love you can touch. Your fairy garden doesn't need to remain frozen in time. Let it breathe. Let it change with the seasons. Add a little bench in winter, maybe a pebble path in spring. Replace pieces that fade, but always let it evolve. Because like us, fairy gardens are never finished. They are always becoming. And in return for your attention, they will give you something rare, a quiet joy. A reminder that beauty doesn't have to be big to be meaningful. That stories don't have to be loud to be heard. And that magic, the real kind, lives in the simplest things, like mist, moss, and imagination. So take your time, touch gently, and always leave room for wonder. The fairies will take care of the rest. If this video meant something to you, please know that subscribing means the world to me. You're not just supporting content, you're supporting a dream that keeps my family going. Thank you, truly. I'd also love to hear from you. What did you enjoy the most? Is there anything I could do better to keep inspiring or simply entertaining you? Your feedback helps this channel grow with heart and purpose. Let me know in the comments. I read every one.